Hello and welcome to the BMW International Open Preview Show. This is a DP World Tour show as part of the Tour Junkies Network. I felt like I was being left out. I seen Nita getting some videos up, seen DB picking up the slack whenever Pat is AWOL and MIA at the minute over in Scotland, and I thought to myself, it's about time I put another DP World Tour show together. So why not stream it live? Why not get some tidbits out there? How does this show work? So generally speaking, we'll break down the betting and DFS side of things from the DP World Tour event. This week's competition over in Germany has attracted some extra eyes, will we say, with the LIV stuff lingering in the background. But certainly this week, a couple of big hitters making their way across. And then we're going to look for some value down the card as well. So I'll get into that. If you haven't picked up the content so far around the Travellers, definitely have a look into that as well. Hopefully, Pat has made it back stateside after his rendezvous over in Scotland. So let's get into the course breakdown for this week's event. We are at the BMW International Open. I don't know if I can pronounce this. The Golf Club Munich Icon Ride in Munich, Germany. So this event, important to point out, does sort of alternate between two different courses. This one in Munich, which we've seen on multiple occasions, and also one in Cologne, Germany as well. It's a par 72, 7,283 yards. Kurt Rosneck designed course, Parkland style track, relatively generous fairways, water and play on most of the holes, but it's not necessarily an out-and-out hazard compared to some other courses we've seen on the DP World Tour already this year. Bent glass greens, they were freshly relayed a couple of years ago, plenty of time to bed in now, and we've seen Victor Hovland last year put lights out at this event. Weather this week looks to be very similar to last year. Very, very enticing overall. Nice mix of heat and not much wind to factor in. Layout thunderstorm softening the surface from time to time, but generally speaking, it looks like it's going to be a very scoreable track with a premium on birdies this week. Would expect a winning score probably in and around 20 under. We haven't quite hit that mark in recent years, but it's definitely one that I think is gettable this time around. Given the course layout, the setup, and the bit of momentum that a lot of golfers have coming in. Whilst course form's not a prerequisite, we did see Hovland win on debut last year, while others have come in off the back of indifferent form as well, leading into the tournament. So not going to gravitate too much towards recent form. Definitely having a look and see if there's any boxes being ticked. For me, players that are hitting greens in regulation lately, looked over the last sort of 2-3 months, see whether that's trending towards also doing something with a putter. Don't necessarily need to be putting lights out at the minute, but if we've seen with Hovland last year at this tournament, you get the hot putter going and you can hit the greens in regulation. There's going to be plenty of scoring opportunities here at the BMW International. Other things I've looked at, so generally speaking, bogey avoidance has been a key metric looking back at previous winners here. Those golfers that have kept it clean, and yes, it's a birdie fest, but bogey avoidance is definitely something I've put a little bit of weight into. Looking back at some previous winners, 4 bogeys over the course of all 4 rounds, or 6 bogeys, it's something they've generally avoided. So I've looked into that in some detail. And generally speaking, just the kind of course setup, given the nature of 7,283 yard track, it's not necessarily going to be a bomber's paradise, given the Parkland style. So you can sometimes have a look outside the box. The shorter hitters can come into play. We've had a list of winners that have ticked different boxes when it comes to the stroke skiing category in the past. So definitely lots to weigh up and consider. And yeah, so previous winners as well then. Hovland, Andrea Pavon, Romero, Larrabal, Ernie Els back into 2013. That's your last 5 winners of the tournament. And then Larrabal himself, also a 2-time winner, having lifted the trophy in 2011. Let's get into the top of the betting board this week. And this is DraftKings prices as of about 20 minutes ago before I hit record on this video. So Billy Horschel, top of the board, 12-1. Louis Oosthuizen at 18-1. Sergio Garcia at 18-1. Thomas Peters at 20-1. And then we have 3 golfers on 22-1 on DraftKings Sportsbook currently. Jordan Smith, Bernd Wiesberger, and Ryan Fox. 4 players have made the journey straight to Munich to compete here. However, only 2 of those troubled the scores over the weekend last year. Sorry, 14 players have made the journey across, should I say, from the US Open last week. But only Thomas Peters, who finished T27, and Will Bestling, who finished T56, actually made the cut last week. So others that are coming across: Buddy Horschel, Cal Samuji, Laird Shepherd, Louis Oosthuizen, Marshall Snyder, Richard Mansell, Ryan Fox, Sean Crocker, Sergio Garcia, Thorborn Olesen, Victor Perez, and Yannick Paul. Some of those have caught my attention this week. It's not something we can rule out just because of that potential jet lag factor. I'm not going to weigh that in. We've seen golfers show up well, having played in the major before. And again, scheduling wise, outside of the COVID years, generally speaking, we've had the major leading into this event, and not necessarily something I'm going to dismiss. Also, looking into the fact that 10 LIV players who teed it up at Centurion a couple of weeks ago are also on show at this event. That's something to weigh up. Is there a distraction factor there? My personal belief is that the alliance, what we say, between the PGA and DP World Tour is not necessarily going to hold out strong through this LIV factor. I think it would be a sloppy move if the DP World Tour did not engage with the LIV guys and had them involved in this global event, what we say, because it could be the death of the tour should they end up being almost a feeder tour to LIV and PGA without standing on their own 2 feet. So that's all I'll say about that. Let's get into the actual bets that I've landed on. So I did gravitate away from that top of the board, and the first bet that I have picked upon this week is Adrian Otegi, 50-1 with DraftKings Sportsbook. 3-time DP World Tour winner. He's been knocking on the door on occasion this year. Runners-up at the ISPS Honda event in Spain. 3rd at one of the Ras Al Khaimah events as well. And most recently on the DP World Tour, top 20 at the European Open. He's one of the LIV golf guys who teed it up at Centurion that I have kept my eye on. I think he took that momentum that he had from the DP World Tour into the LIV event in London, finishing T7. Putter was solid, found birdie opportunities when a lot of other golfers struggled in London, and finished with a round of 68, albeit on a 54-hole tournament. Solid all-round stats in the 8-week tracker. Only length off the tee where he falls down versus the field here, but not overly weighting that this week. The staple of golfers that I've put together tick various boxes. Some areas where he is doing well versus the field: 6th for bogey avoidance, 11th for scrambling, 23rd for driving accuracy, and a top 30 grade for GIR as well. Putter can blow hot and cold, but looked at bogey avoidance given previous trends for winners here, and Otegi has scored well in Birdie Fest 2. 3 rounds of 66 in Spain at the ISPS Honda. Also shot a 63 in that event at Ras Al Khaimah, where he did particularly well. He knows how to win at this level. He's solid run of form. He's also seen the course 3 times as well, so he will know what to expect. And I think he's one of these golfers that isn't at LIV Tour level per se, but could certainly make a statement here. And what, on paper could be one of his final DP World Tour events if they do go down the line of the PGA Tour Alliance. But certainly Otegi, I think it could be his 4th time lucky here for a DP World Tour victory. So Adrian Otegi at 50-1 is my first selection. My next selection is Nicholas Norgaard Muller. So I think last time I checked, he was 60-61. He opened up 77-1 with DraftKings Sportsbook. Again, price around, have a look to see what's out there. We're doing a live stream, so I may as well just do this live now. I'll have a little look at some of the live betting odds out there while I talk about Mr. Muller. Again, have seen some popular tipsters, will we say? Pundits, tipsters, putting up Mr. Muller as well. Did very, very well on my model for this one. Let me just look. International Open, BMW. What can we get price-wise around Nicholas Norgaard Muller? Some live price looks anyway. Yeah, still seeing 80-1 out there. Looks like Camby Books still have him up at 80-1. Bet365 have him up at 80-1. More concerning is the fact that a number of books on Oddschecker don't have a price against them. So I'm really hoping this isn't one of these live faux pas where a golfer has withdrawn from the field and I have not picked up on it. But let's see why I would look at Nicholas Norgaard Muller while I also do a bit of digging in the background as to his status. So yeah, 1st in the field for driving distance, 7th in the field for strokes gained. putting. So an interesting combination there. And then outside of that, the Danes recorded back-to-back top 10 finishes at the European Open and Scandinavian Mixed. So where are we? The joys of multiple tabs, multiple screens daily here with work. So let's see. I'm sure Mr. TweetDeck will soon tell me if Nicholas Norgaard Muller isn't in this field, but I would imagine it's down to a translation issue that he's now pulled out. But the likes of Odds Checker that's scraping different sites hasn't picked up on him. We certainly had a tea time when I last looked, so I'll let that load in the background. Yeah, he's taken a while to get going since graduating from the Challenge Tour. Now look to be finding something with his game as the year has gone on. Outside of that, both his Nordic Golf League victories in 2019-2020, they came around very, very similar style tracks, inland tracks, parkland setups with forgiving fairways. So as he does grade out 100th in this field for driving accuracy, it might be enough to put some people off. It's not enough to put me off. I think we can overlook that this week and have plenty to like about Muller. And yeah, I'm still not seeing anything around him withdrawn. One more check of the DP World Tour website while we're at it. But yeah, for me, if he can find the greens often, which he's been doing regularly, he's up there in terms of GIR. And if the putter has the putter to shoot low, I definitely feel he could do well this week. So Nicholas Norgaard Muller is my second selection. And before I wrap this one up, I definitely just want to confirm 100% for you guys that he is still in the field. The joys of this. Yeah, he has a tee time 740. So I'd say that's just me quickly looking at Odds Checker. Scraping tool not working as efficiently as it should has meant that they cannot translate Nicholas Norgaard Muller correctly, and that's why only 2 books are shown. So yes, from a price perspective, I think there's 80 to 1 still out there. DraftKings Sportsbook have him at 66 to 1. Happy to get involved at that price. So that's my second selection, Nicholas Norgaard Muller at 66 to 1. Next golfer making my lineups. Only 3 outright selections this time. Not going to go amongst the weeds. There's lots of guys I like down the board. Decided to throw them into my DFS pots, but my next golfer is Julian Brun at 66 to 1. Actually, he's out to 70 to 1 at DraftKings Sportsbook. So what do they know? What do their traders know that I don't? Frenchman Julian Brun, he's making my card. Top 20s this year at Ras Al Khaimah, Kenya, South Africa earlier in the year, as well as a top 10 finish at the British Masters. It's been 2 missed cuts and a T34 since then, but expect him to go well here. Like, to be honest, like haven't won on debut, but outside of that, you don't necessarily have to have form coming into this particular tournament. Andre Pavon won in 2019, miscut 56 on his 3 appearances at the event prior to lifting the trophy. Andres Romero, 28th, 22nd, a little bit of form there, I guess. And then down the board as well, Danny Willett, 30th, 24th before his win. So not necessarily going to hold that against Julian Brun. And definitely is an improved golfer as well. So, yeah, form not necessarily an issue for me. The bogey avoidance stat to the fore again with Julian Brun, 5th in the field here, but he's also top 15 GIR. Whilst the putter does blow hot and cold, he's gained strokes putting in the last 9 out of 12 events this year in the adjusted strokes gained category. So that's versus the field and against the metrics that sort of weight the ability of the field or the strength of the field against a baseline. 3-time Challenge Tour winner. He's still seeking his maiden victory at this level. Enjoyed success on the Pro Golf Tour previously too. He had wins in Poland and Morocco to his name. That tour itself is based out of Germany. He had a couple of outings there, including 2 top 10s, second at the Castagna Resort Championship, followed that up with top 20 in the German Challenge Tour event as well in 2021. Drifted slightly then from that opening price to 66 to 1, but very happy to get involved with Julian Brun as my third and final outright selection this week. So just to recap, Adrian Otegi, 50 to 1, Nicholas Norgaard Muller at 66 to 1, and Julian Brun at 70 to 1 rounds out my outright betting card. And one thing that I thought I would do this week is, as I work in the betting industry, I have a little bit of eyes on odds screens and comparisons and everything else. So why not put that in to good use with a section I'm going to call market observations. Yeah, very, very original with that one. So where's the DFS value based on the betting market? So what I've picked out this week is 3 head-to-head matchups. Looking at Dom Best screen here. So Dom Best screen is basically a comparison of all the books that are open at the minute. Feed into that and show me the trends in terms of head-to-head matchups and where the market is going. So picked out 3 selections this week before I jump into the DFS side of things. Not necessarily going to make my DFS card. Actually, 2 of them ended up making my DFS shortlist or my pool, but definitely something to factor in. First matchup I'm going to look at is George Coetzee against Phil Bestling. 7,600 for George Coetzee, 7,900. So you are paying 300 more for Bestling. In terms of head-to-head matchups, betting-wise, this opened up as a pick'em. So basically 50% chance either side, but it's all been one-way action for Will Bestling in the head-to-head matchup. He's now the minus 140 favorite in this market. So if you are on a decision between Coetzee and Bestling in and around the same sort of price point at the high end, 7K, it would be Will Bestling if you're looking at the market indicators there. Matty Schmidt against Fabrizio Zanotti, 7,800 for Matty Schmidt, 7,600. Again, we're in that same sort of top end price range of the 7K side of things. Again, this one opened up a pick'em, 50% chance according to the market makers, but it's been all love for the German playing on home soil here. Like the Bestling matchup, he's down to minus 140 favorite now over Fabrizio Zanotti. So 2 7K selections there in the market. If you're going to look at the head-to-head matchups, generally speaking, you're looking at Will Bestling against George Coetzee. You're looking at Fabrizio Zanotti against Matty Schmidt against Fabrizio Zanotti based on the market moves is worth weighing up from a DFS perspective in and around that same price point. Last one I'm going to look at in terms of the betting market. This is a little bit different up the top. So if you are going into that 10K range, Louis Oosthuizen at 10,300, Thomas Pieters at 10,100. This is an interesting one up in the 10K range. Top of the board, it's worth a look. Usti actually opened up a decent-sized favorite in this head-to-head matchup, but it's been Pieters that's garnered the most interest in the market. All the money coming on Thomas Pieters. That said, Usti's still a narrow favorite, but if you are going to take the weight of the market and respected books and the price moves, then Thomas Pieters is probably the selection between those two up the top of the board. And again, if your DFS perspective, are people going to gravitate towards Louis Oosthuizen in a DP World Tour field versus the likes of Thomas Pieters, the homegrown talent? It's quite possible as well. So maybe an ownership perspective and a market perspective, Thomas Pieters might be the value play up the top of the board. So why not jump into my own DFS selections this week? So not going to go through these in too much detail. I basically came to a short list of 30 players this week, ranging from 10K players down to the 6K, where I picked up a bit of value. Largely, I built my stable this week around GIR over the last 8 to 12 weeks, looked at round by round where I could in terms of data that was collected, and then started to gravitate towards guys who showed glimpses with a putter as well. Definitely factored that in. So 9K and above range, Thomas Pieters, 10,100, Rasmus Højgaard, 9,300, and Victor Perez, 9,200. All caught the eye, and as is Tour Junkies tradition, I have a fade in this range as well. It's old Bobby Mack at 9,100. Bit of a perception that Robert McIntyre has turned the corner after showing glimpses this calendar year, but ultimately it's still just one top 10 finish from 11 starts for the Scotsman. And to be fair, there's not much to love about that when you're up in the 9K range, so I'm happy enough to fade Robert McIntyre. The 8K range, again, Adrian Otegi, touched upon him in the betting portion. If you missed that, you can watch it on a replay. But he's in there at 8,400. Also, like in Richard Mansell, 8,700. Laurie Cantor, 8,600. And an honourable mention for Mr. Thomas Dietrich as well in that range. What is Dietrich? Just looking at my sheets. Yeah, 8,800 for Dietrich. Like, generally speaking, jumping week to week between that 8K range, you have a limited pool of golfers to choose between, and I sometimes struggle to get 3 selections and a fade in that 8K range, given you're usually picking between 9 and 10 golfers. But this week, I had no issues. Otegi, Mansell, Cantor, Dietrich as well will all form some sort of pool in my lineups, like all on the model side of things. It's happy enough to get involved. Mikko Korhonen was another one in there at 8,100 who just missed the cut for me. The putter was a bit of a question mark there. graded out 79 for stroke gained putting over the last number of weeks. My fade in this range, Martin Keimer, former winner of the tournament, 8,300, also a former major winner on home soil. That's where the positives end. Shadow of informer self, can't get near Mr. Keimer this week at 8,300, so happy enough to fade him. 7K range, let's jump down and have a look. Touched upon Will Bestling there in the market observations section. He's one to look at 7,900. Anton Rosner, 7,800. He also popped on the model. Let's see roughly where he graded out. Can't actually see him now. Need to boost my my font next time when I'm doing this on the fly. There he is. So he graded out 13th in the model. So yeah, up there for the Frenchman, showing some glimpses with the putter. Scrambling was lower than average in the field, and driving accuracy wasn't particularly strong, but not stuff that I factored in too highly this week. So Anton Rosner, 7,800. My fade in this range is Rafa Cabrera-Bello, 7,500. Opened the year with a T2 at the Abu Dhabi Championship, but it's all been downhill since then for the Spaniard. Horrible run of form across the DP World Tour and PGA Tour events when he's teed it up over there. He did make the cut at the RBC Canadian Open. That was a brief flicker of light for Rafa Cabrera-Bello, but it's been consistent struggles for the Spaniard all year, and he grades out amongst the worst in this field for GIR over the last 8 weeks, which isn't particularly a surprise. We'd really have to turn it around, but I think I'll wait for him later in the year at some of those events closer to home for Rafa Cabrera-Bello. 6K range then. Excuse me. Craig Hoey at 6,800. Always seems to pop on models over the last few weeks. Not necessarily translated that, but he's definitely been popping for me. Paul Waring, 6,900. Jack Senior, 6,900. And Jamie Donaldson, 6,900. 4 golfers there in the 6K range. All at the high-end 6K. There wasn't too many names down the board. So final shortlist-wise, if you want a few more 6K names, Freddie Lacroix, put him up multiple times this year already. He's definitely a little bit of interest there, 6,600, given his potential upside. Sebastian Heisel in there, 6,700. Nicholas Lemke, 6,600, did well in the model side of things. Jamie Dawson, 6,900, one of the guys in there. He is 15th on the DP World Tour this year in bogey avoidance, or within this field, is 15th in this field for bogey avoidance in the DP World Tour. That's probably one that stands out a little bit more. Definitely worth a look. On the Welshman this week. Right, blathering on for 22 minutes. Let's get into the best bet. So Victor Perez, round 1 matchup versus Robert McIntyre, minus 115, 1.87 on DraftKings Sportsbook. Again, principles here. It's a first round matchup. They tee off about 10 minutes after each other. I think Perez is off first, McIntyre 10 minutes later. So you might get multiple books pricing up this matchup. That is not as juiced as it is at DraftKings there with a 30-cent line. But it's been 4 straight tournaments now at DP World Tour level where Victor Perez has finished ahead of Robert McIntyre. And on all 4 occasions, he has finished stronger in round 1, beating out McIntyre in the head-to-head side of things as well. He's gone well out of the blocks on each occasion. Only really McIntyre on day 2 at the Belfry, shot a 67. To turn it around and make the cut. Otherwise, McIntyre hasn't made the cut in 3 out of the last 4 events. And even with that, Perez still finished above him at the Belfry, which could be somewhat of a comp course this week as well, I must add. Happy to put Perez up here at the pick and price tag, minus 115 against McIntyre. And that is my best bet for the BMW International Open 2022. So to recap then, Adrian Otegi at 50-1 outright selection. Nicholas Norgaard, Muller 66-1. Julian Brun 70-1. Also my outright selections this week. Touched upon some market observations, touched upon some DFS, and then a best bet to round out the show. That is typically it from me. I have nothing else to add this week. I hope Mr. Pat Perry has got home to the States, and I hope that we see some green screens and some winning tickets after this show on the DP World Tour. I'll be back next week for the Irish Open as well, which I'm actually hoping to get down to. I have tickets. Whether I get to all 4 days remains to be seen, but I'm definitely curious to see if any names pop up for that card next week at the Irish Open given the exploits with the LIV Tour. And then we've got the Scottish Open the week after, and then we're into the Open Championship. So a real strong run on the DP World Tour to come in the next few weeks. So no better way to start it off with hopefully Otegi, Moeller, or Brun winning this one and getting us off to the best of starts. That's it for me this week. Thank you, everybody, for joining me again, and I will catch you next week. Cheers, guys.